Now, the pro temp judge, Bonnie Tremack, I actually thought she was going to be understanding because she was a woman. And she was just horrible. I cross-examined the sheriff, the deputy, Sheriff Weisenfeld, and I told him that he was giving inaccurate facts. He never mentioned that he came to the side of my car. He said that I was on the phone with a tow truck and my insurance. There's no record of that, but he was saying that. And she never questioned why he was giving this inaccurate information. As I said, she asked if I had a doctor's note for being afraid of the police. She scoffed at me. What else? She wouldn't take news articles. Now, granted, news articles about rapes at traffic stops, they're not pertaining to my case because they're other people's cases. But if you look at the statistics here, one would be cautious. One would not want to go into a dark, deserted area. That's just asking for trouble. And I don't care who's pulling you over. I didn't know who was in that patrol car. And even if it is a real law enforcer, which it was, how do I know how he's going to treat me? He has a gun. I don't. Now, she didn't even tell me that I was guilty. Someone in the audience, actually, who was watching in support of me, she said, I didn't hear a plea. And the judge said, sorry, I heard my phone ringing. The judge said, she said that she's guilty. She already said that she was guilty because basically the judge had asked how long did I drive. She said, could it be a minute? And I said, it could have been. I don't know. I wasn't timing myself. If I had to do it over again, I would have got on my cell phone, I would have called 911, but I was nervous at the time and I thought I was going to find a store any second. Besides that, if I was on the phone, I could get a ticket for that. So anyway, that's just a little bit of what happened in court. What I found out about pro tem Judge Tremack is she's an entertainment lawyer. In fact, her father was the executive producer of the show Chips. So I guess she is in favor of law enforcement, which is fine, but not all of them are good, and you have to look at that. From some valid sources who are close to my Therese Richardson, it was told to me that pro temp Judge Tremack, that there was a rumor, okay? If it's not true, I'm sorry, but pretty much it is, that in her neighborhood, people were making complaints that men were going in and out of her home. This is in Montanito, California, which is in the Malibu area. And that she had a dominatrix business. I kid you not. This is Hollywood, Malibu. There's all sorts of things happening here. Now, it does seem a little bit odd, if it's true, that the judge would be a dominatrix. But that's her business. What gets me upset is she, again, a room, I don't see any of this in the paper, but it was told by solid sources that a client of hers was interviewed for the death of my Therese Richardson. Now, I have stated time after time that my Therese Richardson and me have one thing in common. Even though my Therese Richardson has passed away, she perished in a very, just awful. She was most likely sexually assaulted and then murdered. And thank God I wasn't. But the connection is that we were both treated unsafely. I was punished $500 for pulling into a store. She was let out of the sheriff department after midnight. She had had some sort of bipolar episode. I mean, there were about 10 witnesses that said that there was something wrong with her. She was arrested because she didn't pay a bill. And she was saying things like she wants to avenge Michael Jackson's death, and she's from Mars. So they took her into the station. Her mother said, "Leave her in there. I'm coming in the morning." She was far away. "Oh, yes, yes, we'll leave her in till the morning." They didn't leave her in there till the morning. They let her out in the middle of the night in the canyon. Okay? No cell phone, no credit cards, no money, no car. This mentally disabled woman, and a woman, even if she wasn't disabled, where's your ride? There was nobody around. How can you do that? Where is the common sense of these law enforcers? I also want to mention that I got so riled up about this that I called the FBI. The first time, they were very nice to me. The second time, when I wanted to see what was happening, if they had looked into Sheriff Weisenfeld, why he ticketed me for wanting to go into a store. Whoever the FBI agent was that was talking to me, very peculiar. He asked for the sheriff's name. I gave it to him, Weisenfeld. And then he went on to say, "Oh, well, you drove 2 minutes." I said, "How did you know that?" "Well, I'm the FBI man." And I had said to him that this was all over in the news. I have lots of news articles about me speaking at Malibu City Council. But nowhere does it say 2 minutes. Well, maybe if you Google on page 7 of Google somewhere. There's no way he could have pulled that up so quickly. And I don't remember saying that I was driving for 2 minutes. Maybe it was. I don't know. But it doesn't matter how long I was driving. I was going slow. I would put my hazards on, and it was evident that I was looking for a store. I stopped at the store. That was the first store. And I said, "Well, don't you care about your, females or safety? And what about your colleagues?" And I told him that there's actually a movie out there, documentary called The Invisible War. And it states that 1/3 of all women in the military have experienced sexual assaults in this war that we're in right now. And 500,000 throughout the duration of World War II to now have been sexually assaulted. The people working in the military by their colleagues. And it happens in law enforcement too, not just in the military. Unfortunately, it's the same mentality. And again, I don't want to put down all police officers, all sheriffs, but there's far too many incidences of this happening. There was a statistic set that stated law enforcers in America are 3 times more likely accused of rape on women. The statistics are there. I'm glad what I did. And it's been very hard because there's a lot of people that are very pro-police, or they don't want to believe that the police are corrupt. I did have a small group of supporters, but I really wish that there were more people rallying. I got almost a couple hundred petitions to make it such that one wouldn't get a ticket if they pull over, but nothing's been done. And there are other instances of what I did. People getting jailed for going into a store, people losing their license. There was a bill in Arizona that was trying to be passed, but it was denied. And actually in California too, because this woman, Kara, I can't remember her name, but it was in the 80s, a California highway patrol officer had pulled her over in a dark, deserted area and she, sexually harassed her. And she said that she was going to report him. And he tore her out of the car and threw over a bridge. So there were people that were trying to make it such that you don't get a ticket for your safety, but it's too powerful here in the state of California. They say that, oh, well, if you allow that, then there'll be criminals that are going to, they'll be shooting if they don't stop. I highly doubt a criminal would pull up into a store, a well-lit store, and start doing that. They would start doing immediately. Or they might even go into a dark place to start shooting so that they wouldn't be seen. I mean, the only thing I could think of is if some criminal goes into a store and takes like a hostage or something, which I highly doubt. If somebody is going slow with their hazards on, which is what media tells you to do, which is what some police law enforcers tell you to do. Come on, that's a sign that they're going to pull over. And if they actually go into a store and everything goes fine, why would you punish them with $500,000? Why would you put that on their license? This happened in January of 2011, and and my fiance, thank God he was with me, because supporting on this. He wasn't in the car with me. Because I just don't know how much I could have done. I would have probably have gone a handful of times, and that would have been it. I could tell you right now, throughout the duration of this, I was very scared. There were about 5 people that said, if you continue to speak out, or if you speak out at all, they'll do what they did to that girl, Mitrice Richardson. They'll kill you. I swear to God, that's what they said. People I didn't know. I'm shaking as I was on, I don't know. I don't know if, maybe it's because I'm a Scorpio and I like to dive deep, but I was on the internet so many hours looking up statistics, and it was just scary. It was so scary to dive into this and then to go to the Malibu City Council and tell them about all of this. I mean, I'm definitely a whistleblower. I'm a whistleblower. And I didn't have any lawyer. They didn't want to take the case. The lawyers didn't want to take the case. You have to pay them up front. Legal aid, no, it's a traffic ticket. It's more than a traffic ticket. It's about people's safety. In California, in Los Angeles, people have been known to be beaten by the cops senseless. Oh, and let me tell you also, the Los Angeles Sheriff Department, they're under investigation. Oh, yes, Sheriff Baca. Everything's fine. That's what Sheriff Baca says. Meanwhile, deputies are telling inmates to rape each other. I mean, unfortunately, we all know that rape occurs in jail. But the deputies telling the inmates to rape each other? The deputies going in there and bashing people's head until blood's pouring out and they're unconscious? This mainly happened at Men's Central, and look this up. It totally needs to be restructured here in Los Angeles and in California in general. I mean, if there is good reason to protect oneself and you're not doing anything wrong, I really do believe that he could have just told me to put my hands up on the wheel. He could have checked around, but he chose, my officer, to give me a $500 ticket. Because I don't know. Did he want the money? Probably yes. Did he want to harass me? Did he want to sexually harass me? I still don't know. I don't know. He had a partner. That doesn't mean anything. I've read many cases where there's a partner and assaults happen, or the partner doesn't want to say anything. It's the Big Brother way. The Big Brother way has to stop. The fair way has to kick in. And the people that are working in these law enforcement agencies, a lot of them are just, some of them want to say things and they're afraid. I sometimes wonder, Lieutenant Tracy DeMello, She said I committed several infractions. Did she say that because she's one of the guys there? Or did she say that because she was fearful? I don't know. Oh, and I did go to the Office of Independent Review, and I filed a complaint with them. And one of the lawyers over there, when I told him about, I wanted to make it quite clear that it was a rumor. I mean, I didn't want to say it was factual because I still don't know, but I was told by valid sources that Bonnie Jo Tremack, my judge, may be a dominatrix, and the client of hers was interviewed for killing my Treese Richardson. And I tried to tell this to the attorney that was talking to me at the Office of Independent Review. Oh, it's just a rumor. You're just upset, ma'am. He got way too excited, emotionally charged. Fine. If it's a rumor, it's a rumor, but let me at least tell you. I'm sure there's even much more to say. I'm going to calm down now and Bill, ask me some questions.
Okay. Have you also looked into officer-involved domestic violence? Do you know how serious that problem is?
Yeah, and I have seen, I mean, it's in TV shows, officers beating their wives. What's ironic is you see on bumper stickers on the LAPD cars, fight against domestic abuse or no excuse domestic abuse. Yeah, I mean, it's a culture. They have power. They think that they're kind of on the level of God, and they abuse it. And then the ones that really do want to do good, they get put into the system and bullied. So it takes people like you, it takes people like me to speak out about this. When people say, oh yeah, just a traffic ticket, just pay it. No, I'm not going to give $500 for trying to protect myself from being raped. I will not do that. I will not do that for the next person. And Bonnie Jo Tremack the judge asking me if I have a note from the doctors that I'm afraid of the police. Put on the news. I don't want anybody to be treated like that. And thank God I was never sexually assaulted physically. But I know that sexual assault victims, they go through a horrendous ordeal in the courtroom. The questions that they're asked. Some of them don't even want to go through with it. Okay? I'm being belittled for being cautious about sexual assault. And the sexual assault victims, they get belittled for being raped. How could this be? How could this be? Go ahead. No, I will tell you, I'm in the minority. I actually believe in abstinence. I'm a spiritual person. I believe if you're married, you do that or you choose not to. If you have a baby, whatnot. Okay? The country, it's not so abstinent. But it doesn't matter. If you're abstinent or if you're a prostitute, nobody wants to be raped. Nobody. And I was talking to, I personally feel it's a shame. There is a woman who is doing independent research trying to find out who killed my Treese Richardson, and she's contacted my Treese's mentor. She put stuff on YouTube. She asked me questions on the YouTube, and I was hesitant because she point blank says that she's a sex worker. Now, I find that that's sad. I hope she gets in another line of work. Not to mention I don't believe it's legal, but whatever. I met her at a walk for my Treese, and she's very nice. And she says that she has seen things where sex workers have really been abused by law enforcement and raped. And you know what? That's not right. Again, nobody wants to, nobody, no man, no woman. I feel that it might be a little bit harder on a female if that happens, but yeah, I wish when you're in the courtroom for cases like this, preventative measures, or if it really happened, that they can look beyond just the case and see the soul of the person. I mean, there's a spirituality, and some people don't think that there is. I personally think that there's a spirituality to love making. So when you destroy that with assault, or, you know, even like sexual harassment, or being scared that it's going to happen, you know, preventing it, I just think that there should be more empathy. And people really didn't see that as I was speaking. I said it a few times that we're spiritual beings. And you know, I don't want people to think that this is like a loopy thing, because it's really not. And I think that you're doing this interview because we're real people, and we have real feelings, and we want to get somewhere in life, and we want to have peace. We don't want our life to be just, you know, all this jumbled stuff, and the judicial system is supposed to help you. And when it doesn't, I was crushed. I know I was crushed. I was crying. And this was only, you know, it was a traffic ticket, but it meant so much more. And by the way, maybe it's in my blood, but I'm related to Patrick Henry. I'm a descendant of his. He was my great, however many great uncle. So give me liberty or give me death. But I don't want death. I just want liberty, and I want to live, and I want justice. And if this film, this tape, can get to Congress and get justice, yes, instead of pushing me to this person and pushing me to that person. Oh, and one more thing about the FBI agent. He said, well, nothing happened, ma'am. Nothing happened. Nothing happened. Easy for you to say. Easy for you to say. I literally, being an entertainer, a starving artist, I have my other side jobs, but it's hard to earn a living. I mean, you know, you're always doing free stuff with acting, theater, whatnot. This case, I hardly had any money to begin with. I was in debt. I wanted to climb out of my debt. I want that. And I just pursued this case for a year. And I was actually borrowing my fiance's car. His car broke. Many days we were preparing to speak at the Malibu City Council. Time that we weren't paid for. We did this ourselves. We spiraled down into a bigger debt. And now, thank God, we're climbing out. But that's why I had to put it aside. I just had to put it aside. And it's such a shame that the attorneys, at least in this area, I would hope that they would take cases pro bono for the justice of things. I know that you have to be paid. I know that you have to earn a living, but I don't really see people that could make a difference wanting to make a difference. And again, I thank you for having this to bring to Congress. More good people have to get into these professions of law enforcement and the judicial system, because, you know, unfortunately there's just too many corrupt people, and it drags everybody down. You know? And some people don't want to go into the business because they know this already. And that just makes it worse. Like me with the acting, you know, there's a lot of corruption in that, you know, who's sleeping with who to get what part, who knows who, you know, I mean, it's not all like that, and it's gotten better. But many people say, oh, why do you want to go into that? You know, you're such a nice person, or you think this way, and they think that way. Yeah, well, if nobody decent goes in, then you have like a bunch of corrupted people, and that's, you know, that's just what's happening with the mentality of the military, the law enforcement, and you know, just a little bit off the subject, but with military, I truly feel if you're going to go into a war, you need to go in with believing in the cause. But instead, I hear young people, young guys mostly, saying, oh yeah, I'm going to get an education, I'm going to get a house. At the Malibu City Council meeting, it was brought up, I spoke out since I was there. It was brought up for the mayors to sign a letter for us to evacuate what was Iraq or Afghanistan, I think it was Afghanistan. And I stood up and I said exactly what I'm saying. You need to believe in the cause, and you know, if you're going in into the wrong reason, get out. And a lot of these young people, they're not taken care of in the military, and you know, cliques form and things happen. Well, the mayor was so angry at me saying that. I gave you an article. There's an article in the Malibu Surfside News that quotes, Miss Lukens, I will not have you demonize the military. The military was good to me. I got my doctorate degree from that. Your doctorate degree? That's not why you go in the military. That's great if you have the doctorate degree. What about people being blown up and families being torn apart? That's the number one reason. And we know there's corruption in this war. We know it. Women being raped. People from their own members, soldiers, being murdered. Come on. Iraqi girls being raped by American soldiers. We are bullies. We're bullies, and we shouldn't be bullies. There's a lot of great people in this country. But there are a lot of people in other countries that think we're all like this. And we need to step up to the plate and show them that we're not. When they come here, they can see that it's a little bit different. But in the general news, Europeans, Middle Easterns, they hear a lot of bad stuff and they see a lot of bad stuff. And that's a shame, because I'm proud to be an American, especially a female with the liberties that I have. And, whoa, I just went off on a tangent. Well, thank you.
You did good. You're doing great. Let me ask you, I want you to go back and tell me about when the policeman pulled up behind you.
Okay.
Because you
Not behind me. It was to my left. It was following me.
Where were you? It was in Malibu.
Yes.
And where in Malibu?
On the Pacific Coast Highway. I was going to go onto a freeway soon. I was following my GPS.
Okay.
And the area, everything closes down at a certain time. I was volunteering at a theater in Santa Monica. Usually I get onto the 405, take the freeway. In this case, it was a little after midnight, and I wanted to actually see how long it would take for me to get to Pepperdine University, which is in Malibu, because I was promoting this event. I was producing, I'm a vegan. I was producing a raw vegan limousine event where we had signs up on a limo, "Go Vegan." So, being the producer, I wanted to see how long, you know, in a normal speed it would take to get from point A, Santa Monica, to Malibu, because I wanted to see if I could put that in with my itinerary. So that's what I was doing, going through the PCH, and then I would have gotten up on the 101 freeway. Not that great to do, I guess, at midnight, but you know, I had my cell phone, and
But
No.
it was dark.
It was dark.
All right, and so maybe you went a mile, maybe you went 2 miles, maybe you went half a mile.
The court, the sheriff says I went 1.3 miles. But again, I was not calculating.
So, how slow did you go?
I would have to say that I was maybe going between 30 and 35, or maybe even 25 and 35.
Which is just dragging. It's just so slow. And your flashers were on the whole time?
Yes. And like I said, the sheriff department has on their website, under safety precautions, if you feel you're being followed, go to a well-lit populated area. Now granted, it doesn't say if you're being followed by the patrol car, but I still don't know. There's a lot of people that can take a patrol car, they can make a patrol car, they get it out of a junkyard. There's plenty of stories. Plus, like I said, there are plenty of law enforcers that have sexually assaulted women at traffic stops. In fact, last year, the San Diego chief of police, he formally apologized to the San Diego residents, you probably know this, about the actions that his police did. They sexually assaulted people on duty. There were like 9 different incidences in a matter of 4 or 5 months. The chief of police had to make an apology. What does that tell you?
That there were a whole lot more than that.
That there's a whole lot more than that, exactly. Exactly. Like I said, the military from World War II to now, 500,000 sexual assault victims. But that's just that was reported.
Was there any other reason in your past to make you especially cautious other than your abstinence beliefs, your spiritual beliefs? Had you ever been abused
I
before?
have been sexually harassed, not by police. Although I will say, one time when I was 24, I was working at an all-night diner, and a cook had lightly pushed me into a table and was saying, "What would you do if I raped you?" Just an awful experience. And I told the manager, and he didn't do anything about it. And I didn't say anything. But 5 years later, I was going to do a dinner theater at another restaurant owned by the same people. And I said, I'm going to report this to the police, even though it's too late. And then I found out that police officers who had actually gone to that diner, and one had just been released from his job for being entangled in a prostitution ring. So that's when I started knowing, some of these guys, they're not kind of doing what is right. Also, I had done news on radio, so I'm very current with, unfortunately, negative stories. And I could have sworn that my mother said always pull into a well-lit area if someone's following you. And and going back to being pushed into the table and being told that horrendous thing, I told a police officer who was going to be an actor in a script that I had written. He was a friend of a friend of a friend. And I told him, this upset me, but it happened 5 years ago. And he said, "Oh, well, sometimes women want to be raped." That's what the police officer said, who was going to act in my show. He didn't act in my show. That's what he said. Sometimes women want to be raped. Now, I understand about Freud and fantasies and stuff like that, but this was a stranger cook pushing me on my job. Okay, I didn't want that. Why was that the first thing that came out of a police officer's mouth? It should have been, "I'm so sorry that happened." You know, sometimes people, you know, say things, they think it's like flirtatious. It's not, but, you know, maybe it was that or maybe it was this. But that's all he said. So, yes, between what I've told you, I was suspicious. Plus, I wasn't doing anything wrong. I hadn't been drinking. I hadn't been speeding. I made all the traffic lights properly. The only thing that I could think of is, well, it's late at night and officers sometimes they try to pull you over if you're the only car alone on a road because they can.
Well, before I married my wife, we were driving back to college after visiting her parents, I think, in Dallas, headed out to West Texas, middle of nowhere, late at night. My wife, my girlfriend at the time, was driving. I think we'd driven all the way from Florida, actually, so we'd been driving a long time. So I drove, and then I guess she drove at some point. I'm kind of slumped down in the passenger seat, and a highway patrolman, you know, pulls her over at, you know, 11, 12 o'clock, whatever, until he came up to the window and saw that I was there.
Saw you.
Yeah.
I've read the same stories. Yeah. One happened in Washington State. Was being pulled over by, well, it was a fake officer. Boyfriend was reclined. As soon as I guess the person came up to the window, he popped up, bolted. Yeah. And you know, it's
He
really...
didn't even pretend, this guy didn't even pretend that there was any reason that he was stopping her other than he just turned around and went back. It's, you know, I completely sympathize with you. I just, you know, somebody should have cared, somebody should have done something about this. And I admire